In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 considerations on whether you might say yes or no to MS drugs. But before I do, I'm Jen Tracy. I'm the founder of Women Thriving with MS. This is the Women Thriving with MS YouTube channel. There's the Women Thriving with MS website, Facebook group, Facebook page. Be sure to click that subscribe button below. Hit that bell so that you can be notified of future videos. So first of all, before I talk about saying yes or no to MS drugs and the 5 considerations, I want to state outright, I am not a doctor. I'm a woman that's been living with multiple sclerosis for over 11 years. And I have my own experiences because I have been on two disease-modifying drugs. Some people call them disease-modifying treatments. So I have my own experience, and I've listened to many women talking about their experience, and men too, about whether they're on MS drugs and why. Now, what's most important to know, which you probably know already, but just in case you don't, is that MS drugs, these disease-modifying treatments, are for preventing future MS progression. They do not cure living with MS. There is no cure for living with MS at this point in time. And we're not going to talk about healthy lifestyle and things you can do in that way today. We're focused on these 5 considerations that I want to walk you through. When I was diagnosed with MS, I was tail spinning. Can you relate? Can you relate to tail spinning? Where you're freaking out? It's like, oh my God, can this be happening to me? In that time where I came back from a business trip, my left lip was drooping, my hand wasn't writing, my left foot was dropping. It took them 48 hours to diagnose me when I went to the hospital. And at that time when I was diagnosed, I felt, especially because I had been put on 3 days of steroid drip, I felt batshit crazy. So for me to make a decision about being on MS drugs wasn't in my radar. In fact, when I went to my neurologist, who I loved at the time where I was living, it was 3 months after I had been diagnosed, and she did talk to me about disease-modifying treatments for MS and how they can prevent progression. I said to her, you know what, it's too early for me to make a decision on that. I'm not prepared to do that at this point in time. Because number one, I just felt really crazy. And I didn't think that that's a really good time to make a decision. Now, I was lucky because my neurologist didn't push that on me and pressure me to do that. She gave me time, and I really appreciate that, having that choice to make the time, right? We should all have choice around these decisions. And the reason why I'm going to share these 5 areas or considerations with you today is so that you can ensure that you make the best decision for yourself. Back in the beginning, early years of living with MS, even though I was having really bad vertigo relapses that set me back, sometimes even a couple months at a time, I got to the point where even when I recovered, it was very difficult to read a book. And I had blurred vision back then. There was so many things going on. I was in a place in my mind, MS preventative drugs were not for me. I'm not there now, and I just want to state my position as someone who is talking on a channel and representing women thriving with MS. And that is that I believe I'm in a middle ground place. I think that MS drugs can be beneficial to some people, and that it's important to make your own choice. And if you are told by someone, oh, you can't, if you're on MS drugs, you're not thriving with MS, that's BS, okay? You need to make the best decision for yourself and make an informative decision. And that's why I want to walk you through these 5 considerations so that you can make an informative decision or be validated by your decision, whether you're on either side of the yes or the no. So the first one is around cost. It's interesting in this area because cost is about really where you live and your life situation. If you live in Canada and your income is low, likely the drug company will cover the cost of the medication, and the country, Canada, or depending on, like in the US, there's states. In Canada, we have provinces. Depending on the province, they may cover off some of the costs of the medication. Obviously, the medication has to be approved in your country where you're living in order to get access to whatever that medication is that you choose to go on, if you do choose to go on something. In the US, I'm not sure. What I've heard is that women are paying $5,000 a month for their medication, of which the government or their drug plan might be covering off $1,500, and they're still paying thousands of dollars every month. So that's a lot to deal with, especially when you have a mortgage or you have kids. Life has a lot of expenses, so that cost is going to impact your choices around whether you're going to be even able to go on a medication for MS, how that's going to impact your lifestyle versus are you experiencing progression with MS, and it's like you're willing to give up certain things in order to go on a drug that's going to prevent MS. Disease, I have to look at my notes for this, disease modifying drug treatment, it's a lot to get out word-wise. So cost is a huge deciding factor. One thing I would also like to add is that I live with relapse-remitting MS. I've been living with relapse-remitting MS for at least 11 plus years. And I would consider myself fortunate because I haven't noticed significant progression while living with MS. I have increased fatigue, which is one of the symptoms, and I'll go into symptoms a little bit later. And I have had new lesions grow. I'll jump into that as well. Relapse remitting, they say statistically that about 50% of people living with relapse remitting don't progress to progressive or primary progressive. So that's kind of the realm in which I'm speaking in. That may not be who you are. You may still want to watch this video, which is great. And I welcome that. So let's talk about number 2, side effects, quality of life. There are a lot of side effects that come from these MS drugs that prevent MS progression. You want to weigh that out. Number 1, I totally recommend that you read the box and do the research on those side effects. You can go onto Facebook or Reddit or Google and look at what patients are saying about them. It's one thing to read. It's one thing to read the box. Some of those symptoms that they talk about won't impact you. You may have other symptoms that people living with MS are having that they're talking about that are not written on the box. So these are important. You can also go to YouTube and also search there and watch videos from doctors talking about it, as well as hear feedback. You can look in the feed. So if you're watching a video, for example, by Aaron Boster, who is all over YouTube and does YouTube videos regularly, you can see what are the comments that people are writing below when he's talking about a certain drug, a new drug on the marketplace, or the drug that you have been recommended by your neurologist. Definitely do that research, because side effects can really impact the quality of your life. So early on, I would say in my 11 years, maybe 3.5, 4 years in, I told my neurologist, who kept asking me if I would consider going on a medication, preventative medication, and I was saying no. I said, listen, here's the deal. I will go on medication, however, only if there is a new lesion on my brain. Then I will say yes to it. And so be it. I got back my MRI. There was a new lesion on my brain, and there was one on my upper spine on my neck. And that really freaked me out, honestly. So I agreed to go on Tecfedra. I was lucky in that I did have most of it covered by the government because of my income amount, and the rest of it I covered through my benefits that I pay into for my own business. I work part-time and I have my own business, so I was able to cover a small portion, like $2,000 of the medication. So you're thinking about these drugs costing $5,000 a month, it's not that much. So the drug company was willing, based on my income, to cover the rest. The side effect, the key side effect that comes up, that's the big one with Tecfedra, is what they call flushing. It's kind of like having a hot flash, and I now know what hot flashes are. I've been through it. I'm still kind of in it as a menopausal woman, but at that point I think I was in that place of sort of pre-menopausal, like pre at the very beginning. The first time that I took my first capsule of Tecfedra, I took it and I turned red as a beet, and it was red from all the way from here, my whole chest, all the way down to my stomach. That flushing just kicked in. It was like, I don't know how to describe it, just whoosh, you know, like boom. It really was a flush, and it was kind of burning and prickly. That was very uncomfortable. And I was told to take the medication with food. So eat first, then take the medication. That seemed to help a little bit, but I could be out and about somewhere and just start having one of these flushing episodes while I was with a client out in public, and it was really embarrassing. But I sucked it up and I said, okay, I've got progression showing up through lesions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to this. I had to look, though, at the quality of my life and ask myself, is this impacting my life in ways that is more detrimental than being on the medication? And at that point, it wasn't, so I could suck it up. But then coming into almost the second year, what I noticed is that I was starting to have severe stomach discomfort in a way that I hadn't had before. I have a little tender stomach as it is, but it was noticeably different. So I knew something wasn't right. And I went to my neurologist. Well, I did go to my neurologist first, and I did say to them, hey, like, this is not really good for me. And they're like, well, you can't just drop it cold turkey. We'd like to just put you on something else right away. But because I was moving across the country, they didn't want to do that, which means that they wanted me to stay on Tecfedra till I got a neurologist in another city where I was moving to. And so that's kind of where they stood. They said, well, you know, if you go off the medication, you probably have rebound effects. I didn't know what they meant at the time by rebound effects. Like you know, I didn't know. I didn't even ask. I did go to my naturopath, who I trusted, and he was able to muscle test and check things in my system in a way that is non-traditional. And he said, yeah, you're having difficulties with digesting and processing certain foods. And he muscle tested it related to the medication that I was on, Tecfedra, and it indicated that. And I just made my decision then and there. I was not going to continue on Tecfedra. It had been 2 years almost. I was going to be driving across the country. I did not want to deal with stomach issues while driving across the country. I wasn't driving alone. I had my sweetie with me. We were both driving, but it was a factor to consider. I'll circle back to what happened a little bit later there. One of the things that I do want to say about this is that what I find interesting about this idea of 2 years on a medication and then having something kick in that really was an additional side effect that was extremely unpleasant. This goes back to quality of life, having a quality of life and making that decision of, you know, are you going to stop the drug or not? I was talking to another woman who was on a different medication. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Gilenia, but I can't remember for sure. It had really helped her to stabilize having relapses, having that progression. And MS for her, she was in relapse remitting, but it was kind of moving up that way, right? And she was younger than I was, so that's always another factor as well. I asked her, how long have you been on Gilenia? And she said, well, I've been on it it was okay for the first 2 years, and then I started to notice that my legs were feeling a bit buggered up. And I thought, isn't that interesting, like that 2-year mark? Is it possible that when you're on a medication for a certain period of time that it actually doesn't, it brings new side effects, or it doesn't work as well. And I don't know what the science is on it. I doubt that that's been studied. But it is something that I'm paying attention to when I'm having conversations with women that live with MS around medication to see if that is the case. I know that certain women that are part of the We Thrive membership through Women Thriving with MS, that they have talked about being on, you know, the drip, what we call the drip medication that you take maybe twice a year. They might feel like cruddy for a week, but then they feel okay. So, and they feel that that is supporting them. And so that's great, right? Like, oh yeah, okay, so you've got a quality of life that's not so great for a week or so, and then, you know, you're back to kind of status quo of your life, living with MS, whatever your normal is. For me, when I went on to Mavenclad, which there's a whole video series on Mavenclad, you can check it out if that's something you're considering. I read all of the side effects that were listed. And then I went to Mavenclad for MS Facebook group, and I watched and read and listened to different people's experiences. Some people going on Mavenclad were hit with bad side effects right from the get-go. Others had minor side effects, and some had claimed to have none and were working while they were on Mavenclad. So, you know, it was across the spectrum. That helped me make my decision to go on Mavenclad when the opportunity came up. It was available. It was new in the country. I was able to get subsidized for it. So that made it possible for me to take the medication. And one of the things that I was told is that you can be hit with fatigue at a certain point in the process. So the medication is such that you take a dosage for a week, and then you take a break for a month, and then you take another dosage. And what it does is it kills the B and T cells that attack MS in the brain, the white blood cells that attack MS in the brain, and the hope is that it replaces them with ones that do not. But what happens around, they say around the, I don't know, 6 weeks, but it didn't happen to me till about 9 weeks, is you can be laid out with fatigue. And it was bad. It was like moving through molasses. It was intense. It was, and I was working part-time. It was really hard. It lasted 2.5 months for me. That really impacted my functioning. And I was a mess. I was not a happy camper during that time. It's very hard just in general. I live with fatigue, chronic fatigue, from the time I wake up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night. So you can imagine, in this case, having an extra, you know, layer of fatigue there. It was crazy, right? And that did have an impact on me, and I rationalized with myself, okay, it's all right. This medication is doing what it needs to do. It's killing those cells, and I want to see what's going to happen. I was really curious. I just thought, this is my opportunity to try this new drug that's been released in Canada. Obviously, it has to be released in your country for you to have access to it, and your government bodies have to approve it within the area that you live, whether it's a province or a state. And then I had to ask myself, well, would I do this for a second year? And I didn't make that decision then and there, but later you'll see that I have a video where I talk about year 2. And I say I didn't go on it. Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, the pandemic was happening. Secondly, before the pandemic was happening, I was planning on traveling for an extensive period of time. I did not want to be on Mavenclad with a low immune system, and also having massive fatigue. Plus, I found it very hard to work when I was on Mavenclad during that time of fatigue. And I thought, well, if there's no progression in my MRI after taking the first year of Mavenclad, why would I take a second year? If I were to see progression happening, I would have taken that second year. I would have taken it right away. I wouldn't have been fearful about it. I would have at least known what to expect. And some people say that you don't feel the same side effects with the second year, but you don't know. So these are factors. This is where we have to look at what is the quality of your life? How are you operating in the world? Are you able to manage? Now, here's another factor around that. This is number 3, which is frequency of relapses and progression. If you are getting new lesions in your brain, on your spine, then you're having progression. So do you want to stop that and aim to take a drug and see if it's going to help over a period of a year and treat it as an experiment to see what's possible for you? Or do you want to leave it to chance? And this is something that I've had to grapple with. Right now, I don't have progression showing up, so I'm not on any MS drug to prevent progression, because that's not happening for me. If that were to be happening for me, my decision would be quite different. So you want to look at, like, how often you're having relapses. How is that impacting your life? What if you were able to have less relapses by being on a drug that's going to prevent progression? Would that be something that you'd want to do? So these are the questions you want to be asking yourself around this. And again, I don't recommend making a decision right away after being diagnosed with MS, because you're dealing with the grief side of things and it's very hard. Now, clearly, if there's something really serious happening, like you're not going to be able to walk forever, you really need to decide. All I'm saying is that in the beginning of that diagnosis, there's so much trauma from being diagnosed, it's really hard to make that decision. So number four is MS-related symptoms. You're going to have side effects from the drug, but there's going to be symptoms that you live with day to day. When I first came home from the hospital, after being diagnosed with MS, with my lip drooping and my hand not working and my foot dropping, I also felt that I had around my toes, it felt like I had thread around my toes and it was pulling on my toes. It was the strangest thing. I had bad headaches. I was taking Tylenol and Advil combined, recommended by my neurologist to reduce that. I had a huge amount of fatigue, like there was a lot going on for me, but those were symptoms not related to any medication. I wasn't on any medication. So it's so important to track your symptoms and record what they are before you go on medication, so you can see what are the symptoms you're having that are everyday symptoms, and what are going to be the side effects once you start taking one of these disease-modifying treatments. It's very important to know the difference between those. Over time, for me, I'm having less symptoms most of the time. Mainly it's just fatigue, and I'm having vertigo. Vertigo symptoms I have are not as intense as they used to be. So that has changed for me. If I were having other symptoms, then I would record those so I know, like, is this the medication or is it the symptoms? So be really clear and record what are the MS symptoms that you're having that are sort of consistent for you, so that when you go on one of these preventative MS drugs, you know what is not a symptom. It's actually a side effect. Very, very important. And lastly, when we talk about lifestyle, for my situation, as I've mentioned, I work from home. Well, I didn't mention that, but I do work from home, and I work part-time. So my lifestyle is I need to be able to work to support myself. That is a function of my existence. Plus, I love working. And, you know, with Women Thriving with MS, it's important to me to coach other women, to have a membership, and also have other things going on in my life to have balance. So these things are important to me. If you are a person who has retired early because of MS, or if you had to leave your job because of MS symptoms and progression, those are difficult times and difficult decisions to make. And maybe at that point, you may make the decision, okay, now I can go on Mavenclad because I'm not working, and if I have that fatigue, then I can get through it. It will be okay. I can manage it because I don't have the same pressures on me. If you've got like 5 kids at home and you're going on Mavenclad, then what's your backup plan? What kind of support do you have around you to help you if you have huge amount of fatigue, or any other MS medication, like where you're going to go and you're going to get intravenous every 6 months, and you know you're going to have a week where you're feeling crappy? Who's going to help support you during that 1 week so that you can recover from that initial sort of flood of medication working through your system to help stabilize you? So let's just recap these quickly. We've got the cost that's going to impact you depending on what your financial situation, what supports you can get. We've got the side effects and really being clear about what those are, reading about them, researching them, and making sure that you're well aware of what they are and how they may impact you. Some may impact you, some may not. You just don't know. And we need to look at this as an experiment. Number 3 is the frequency of relapses that you're having. If you're noticing progression, you may want to hop onto a medication and give it a try over a period of a year. I recommend a year to see what's happening first. MS-related symptoms. Be sure to track and record your MS symptoms so that when you go on a medication, you can separate what are symptoms and what are side effects. And lifestyle. What is your lifestyle? What is important to you? I've not gone back on Mavenclad again. If I progressed, I would, and I would make that a priority, and I would deal with what the side effects were and the impact of the fatigue on my life, and I would set my life up that way. So whether you're yay to MS drugs or nay to MS drugs, make the right decision for yourself based on research, feedback from other people that live in the MS community that can tell you their experiences. Read the packaging, do your research, and ask yourself what is most important to you in terms of your lifestyle. So I'm Jen DeTracy, the founder of Women Thriving with MS. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm so happy that you came and watched this video. If you haven't already, subscribe below and click that bell so you can be notified. And lastly, check out below because I have a gift for you. There is a relaxation guide, 3 tips. Now, when you're making tough decisions and you feel stressed out, it's important to relax before you make that decision. So get that guide so you can check out those tips, try them out, see what's going to help you, and that will help release some of that stress so you'll have more clarity to make the best decision for yourself. And also check out our Facebook group, Women Thriving with MS, and our Facebook page, Women Thriving with MS. I'll see you soon. Bye.